afternoon. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we pause at this time in our day first to give thanks for allowing us to gather together here one more time. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to meet as Rotarians and to fellowship with one another over a meal. Dear Father, we come thanking you for the students that we're celebrating today and their hard work and accomplishments through such a difficult school year. We ask that you continue to bless them, keep them safe in their future endeavors. Now, Father, we thank you for our country that we live in and the rights and protections that you have afforded us. We ask that you bless our club and its members so that we can be used to your service and service to our community. We ask now that you bless our leadership and our troops that are near and are far. Also, we ask that you bless this food for our nourishment and us to thy service. Amen.
And now introducing visiting Rotarians guest was supposed to be Kishore, but I don't see him. So, do we have any visiting Rotarians? What about guests? Do we have any guests? I know we have some teachers, and well, there's.
My daughter Gracie is with me today. Gracie Stevens.
We just have a very good select crowd. Thank you. All right, health and happiness. Jesse, Rusty to pass.
At the risk of a little overexposure, I know I just did this 2 weeks ago, but there was a confusion about the list, and so here I am again. So you won't have me to kick around for a long, long time. I want to tell you that in preparation for today, I did try to get in touch with some of our older members and people we don't see much anymore, and I have, excuse me, some brief reports for you. Number one, I want all of you to know that Frank Brown, where are you, Frank? Frank Brown over here with his back to us. Frank Brown will be 80 years old on Wednesday. So congratulations. Frank, you don't look a day over 86. I want you to know that I talked to Murray Price this morning. Murray Price was a flying ace in World War II. He's 98 years old. He does most of the talking when you get him on the phone because he can't hear what anybody else is saying to him. But he did get apparently he turned up his volume, and he told me he appreciated being remembered, and he sends his best to all of you at the Columbia Rotary Club. I had a text message from J.T. Gandolfo. He was on a Zoom call when I called him. He said, "Thank you very much. Our family is doing well. All of our business families are doing well, and our businesses are doing well. And I do a lot at the house and infrequently get to the stores. I'm waiting for my number for the vaccine. I think I can get assigned 67,987. I'm pretty sure that's my number. When it comes up, I'm going. Just kidding, of course, but just like JT. Bobby Blanton. I caught Bobby on his way to lunch down in Naples, Florida. Bobby was fortunate enough to start a very, very fine business and sold it a number of years ago. And he now kind of travels back and forth between Columbia, South Carolina, and Naples, Florida. And I think most of the time he spends in Naples. But he said that he remembered just a few years ago, it seems like, he had to show his driver's license to buy beer. Now he has the privilege of getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go buy toilet paper. So that's part of the aging process, I think. Bobby Capp. You know, Bobby has been through a lot the last few years. His wife was sick for a number of years. She finally died. Bobby had cancer. Anyway, he has gotten over that. The cancer did come back last year. He took sufficient doses of radiation, he hopes, to kill it. In the meantime, he's got a girlfriend, a girl that he knew growing up here in Columbia, and she lives in Somerville, and so they have lunch together 2 or 3 times a week. Seems like an awful long way to go for lunch, but I told him that I had heard that he was getting married again. He assured me that was not the case. But he did tell me, and I thought this was interesting. His son, Bo, lives on Shady Lane, and his daughter-in-law is a nurse, anesthetist in the Army Reserves. And she was sent on a 90-day trek to Kuwait. And while she was over there, the Wuhan virus hit everybody and shut everybody down. And as a consequence, they extended her for another 90 days. She got home last Friday, I guess it was, Saturday. And so they had a big parade at Bo's house on Shady Lane on Saturday. And he said they had about 25 cars with flags on them, and they had about 25 golf carts. And anyway, a big celebration. I want to say that the cart message today is this. June is the Alzheimer's Association's Alzheimer's Brain Awareness Month. And keep in mind that our goal here is $6,000 for the year that ends this month. We are at $5,525, so we only have a short way to go to make the goal and hopefully exceed it. So be kind to the little blue buckets on the tables. I wanted to remind you, I got my last book. The last time the book was printed, which I think was 2010 or 2011. Anyway, so the book is about 10 years old, and I went through it to get these old folks' numbers and so forth, and I ran across a number of names that I would like to throw out to you, people who have been members of this club. I hope they're not still members and I don't know it, but anyway, so with the idea that mistakes can be made, let me ask you to be on the lookout for Mary Wyatt Ballbach, Wyman Bowers, William Casey, Hope Chetwood, Diane Chinnis, who I think is still a member, but she doesn't come much, Fred Crawford, Bob Crooks, Elliot Epps, Hammond Edwards, Wayne Fields, Canson Foster, Robert Goings, Tyler Hudson, Dan Lee, I don't know if Dan's still in town, but Seth Rose, Drew Theodore. And those were just names that I jotted down. If you know them and you see them, tell them that we miss them at Rotary, and see if you can invite them to come back and become members of the club again. That said, I have really very little else except to tell you that there is a list of things that I got on the internet the other day that is all you need to know in the world. And it starts out with the fact that a dime has 118 ridges around the edge. Anybody ever want to know that?
Nope.
A cat has 32 muscles in each ear. A goldfish has a memory span of 3 seconds. A snail can sleep for 3 years. I had children like that one time too. Al Capone's business card said he was a used furniture dealer. All 50 states are listed on the top of the Lincoln Memorial and on the back of the $5 bill. Almonds are a member of the peach family. An ostrich's eye is bigger than its brain. I know some people like that too. Some of them are at the election commission. Babies are born without kneecaps. They don't appear until the child reaches 2 to 6 years of age. Dreamt is the only English word that ends in the letters MT. In the last 4,000 years, no new animals have been domesticated. I'm not going to go through all 3 pages of this, but the last one I'm going to give you is this. If the population of China walked past you in single file, the line would never end because of the rate of reproduction. That I thought was especially interesting. Since we have an educator here, I wanted to mention that on the first day of school, little Johnny was asked, who is your hero? He said, my father. Why is he your hero? The teacher asked. Because he is very, very courageous. So the teacher asked, is there anything that your father is afraid of? He said, yes, sir, my mother. And then a short gun story. The guy walked into a crowded bar, waving his unholstered pistol, and yelled, I have a .45 caliber Colt 1911 with a 7-round magazine plus 1 in the chamber. And I want to know who's been sleeping with my wife. From the back of the room, someone called out, you need more ammo.
Rusty, you never disappoint. Thank you. I just have a few quick announcements. The board will meet immediately after this meeting today, and we will hold a fireside chat for our newest members this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Our past president, Andrew Clarkson, is here. Anyway, he has graciously agreed to host this meeting for us. So our newest members, if you have any questions, he lives on Wilmot Avenue. I think it's 2330 Wilmot. So we'll see you at 6 o'clock. And as you've probably heard, Epworth Children's Home sustained a fire in one of the storage units that contained household and personal products used by the residents. Our member, John Holler, is the executive director. If you would like to help with the financial contribution, I know it would be appreciated. You may visit their website and learn more about where to send it, or you can certainly leave it with us and we will make sure that it gets there. But let's support him if we can. Okay, now let's begin our program today on education. We'll start the celebration honoring our newest scholars first, and I'll turn the meeting over to the chair of our scholarship committee, Kay Shaw.
Thank you, President Gleason. And thanks to our club's commitment and the leadership of the board, Columbia Rotary is going to award 2 $20,000 scholarships to seniors here in Richland 1 and 1 $5,000 scholarship. These scholarship funds are paid directly to the college on a semester basis as long as the student maintains a B average or a 3.0. In addition, we added several requirements which will keep our winners more engaged in club activities. I hope you will see these young people later as they come to some of our meetings, and we're going to ask them to be involved with us in packing food and possibly our bocce bash, so you will see them after today. Members of this year's scholarship committee are Louisa Campbell, Bob Diggle, Rebecca Gunlodson, Catherine Kennedy, Dr. Leo Richardson, Alan Robertson, and myself. And we had the daunting task of choosing winners from very smart and very talented seniors from Richland 1 schools, from Hammond, and from the South Carolina Association of Independent Homeschools. Need a drum roll here. The recipients of our two $20,000 scholarships are Joshua Jones from Columbia High School and Zandre Swenson from Columbia High. Joshua and Zandrea will be introduced by Mrs. Travia Levine Myers, a school counselor at Columbia High School. As many of you know, Capital Rotary Scholarship Committee joins our committee for the interview and selection process. And chairing that committee is Darren Foy, and Darren just snuck in right after our guests were announced. So Darren, please at least stand up and let us say thank you and how much we enjoy working with you. We did something very unusual this year. For the first time that I am aware of, both clubs wanted to honor a young lady named Joanna Stevens. She is an outstanding Hammond senior. Joanna is the recipient of our $5,000 scholarship, and she will also get $5,000 from the Capital Rotary. We just learned this weekend that due to an outbreak of COVID-19 in the Hammond community, Joanna, Jody Lumpkin, the upper school head at Hammond, and Dr. Chris Ruin, who is Joanna's teacher who made a difference, will be recognized at one of our Rotary meetings later in the summer. I'm going to turn this program now, the podium over now to Mrs. Levine Myers, school counselor at Columbia High School. Mrs. Levine Myers will introduce her students, and then the students will introduce you to their family members.
She's one of the counselors at Columbia High as well. If she would please join me on the stage, if it's okay. I would start with Zandrea, since she was actually on my caseload at Columbia High. When I met Zandrea 2 years ago, she told me that she wanted to attend college. As I continued to work and learn about her, we discussed her future plans in further detail. She told me that her goal was to become a first-generation college graduate, leaving a legacy for her younger siblings. She has managed to excel academically while also participating in a few extracurricular activities. This has allowed her to develop a strong work ethic, the ability to prioritize and manage her time to ensure that she gets it done. I chose her because of her drive and perseverance. This scholarship will help her achieve the goal of becoming a marine biologist. We know firsthand that college can be tough, but I'm convinced that she will be successful and she will not accept anything less. I will let Ms. Moore talk about Joshua because he was actually on her caseload at Columbia High.
My first encounter with Joshua was this year. I've known him for the past 4 years in passing, but he wasn't on my caseload until this year. But he's a very strong student, very academically inclined. And what stood out the most about Joshua was his desire to become a biomedical engineer and his resilience with ROTC. He was one of the 4-year ROTC students, and he has excelled in the area of AP over the past few years. Once again, Joshua is very resistant, and he's not one of the students that I have to run behind constantly, because he pretty much did what he was supposed to and was willing. If I say, Joshua, you know, you hadn't quite done what you needed to do, make sure you get it done. Yes, ma'am, and he was on top of everything. He's been accepted to USC. Once again, I thought military might have been the choice, but USC, my alma mater, is where he chose, and I think he will do wonderful and great things to help with the future of medicine and biomedicine itself.
I'd like to ask these students to please stand. Joshua, congratulations. We are so proud of you, and I know you will make us proud of you as you go through school. We really think you've done a super job, so congratulations. Okay, now, I would like at this time to call your attention to the outstanding teachers that make a difference. A teacher can make all the difference. Their academic success of the students is really dependent on the teacher. And I was blessed to have had that kind of teacher way back in the 3rd grade at Satchel Ford Elementary School a long time ago. My teacher's name was Frankie Schofield Taylor. Some of you may know her son, Joe Taylor. But she was an outstanding teacher. I think it was her first year, and I was a pitiful wreck of a student. And she believed in me. She sort of took me under wing, and she taught me the best gift I had ever been given, and that is a gift to believe in myself. And that has made all the difference. So, I thought, well, you know, I never got a chance to tell her how much she meant to me. So I'd like to give these students the opportunity to do just that in her memory. So I asked them, I said, who was that teacher in your career, in your academic career, who turned the lights on for you, who believed in you and your ability and made you do your best? Who was it? Like that. Both of them gave me the names of their teacher. So it is a real tribute to these teachers that they mentioned. And I would like to ask the students and that teacher that made the difference to please come forward. Superintendent of District 1 to distribute the plaques, and we have a token of appreciation, which I've already given you. That's Edward Carfelite. And this one says, to the teacher who made the difference, Travia Levine Myers, from the education life of one of our Rotary scholars, Zandria Swenson. Thank you all so much, scholars and teachers. You teachers do not realize what a difference you make, but you really do. Thank you. And now, we have the pleasure, don't sit down, of having Dr. Craig Witherspoon, Superintendent of District 1, to fill us in on school plans, what they look like for this summer, and what he thinks they might look like for in the fall. Dr. Witherspoon.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Again, congratulations to our honorees with scholarships, and thank you to Columbia Rotary for a long-standing tradition of supporting student scholars, and certainly now recognizing those staff members that do turn the light on. I'm going to have to use that one, I like that. And help our young people be all that they can be. So congratulations again to our students and to the teachers and staff that help them. Let's give them another round. So as we talk about school and what that's going to look like, I want to take you back to March 13th, was a Friday, Friday the 13th, about 2.5 months or so ago, and kids were in school, it was a regular day, and so forth, so we were out for the weekend. We had, and you guys know this, again, reflecting back on the calendar, we had a board meeting already scheduled for Sunday the 15th, and the reason that was, the numbers were creeping up, and a lot of uncertainty and so forth. So I was going to recommend to my board that, hey, we look at possibly closing and so forth. Then on that Sunday morning, I called state superintendent, gave her a heads up and so forth, and she said, well, Craig, the governor might be doing this on Sunday, which he did, about less than an hour before we had our meeting. So our young people were in school, staff in school on that Friday the 13th, and then Monday the 16th, that was it. And everything that happened ensued. We closed up, and again, with that recommendation, I had teed up our academic folks, and everybody said, hey, and I was hoping for about maybe a 3-4 day lead time, so we could get some instructional things together, and teed up our student nutrition staff and all, and so forth. And then I was on the phone with staff most of that Sunday, again, leading up to that meeting, and I said, I called them back, and I said, I don't think we're going to get about 3 or 4 days lead time. And I called them back and said, I don't think we're going to get a day lead time. So it happened on that Monday, but again, our kudos to our teachers, administrators, our counselors, our support staff, student nutrition served over 500,000 meals between then and now. Our social workers went out, did visits, our counselors called principals. Some of our students had laptops at the high school level, some already. At the middle and elementary did not. So they got that stuff out, and we kind of learned on the fly, if you will, how to implement e-learning and all of that. We distributed about 29,000 learning packets because not all of our students have internet access. Low Richland area and some other areas of the district don't even have the fiber. So it's not a matter of calling Spectrum and getting service turned on. So we parked buses in apartment complexes and at schools. Again, meal distribution and all of those things to have some sense of you hear those terms, new normal, and then the term that's floating around now is next normal. So we did all those things to see what we could do to keep learning happening, to keep students engaged, parents and grandparents and all of those things. So again, hats off to all of our staff. And the same thing happened in districts all over the country, certainly here as well. So fast forward, our seniors didn't get their senior day, they didn't get their prom. But we were able to give them a face-to-face graduation, which we did in our stadiums, and I thank the seniors, I thank the parents, the staff, everybody came, and I've got my mask in my pocket, but we all had masks on and all that, so we were able to do that for them. And now we're in summer. So what we're doing this summer, some similar things with, we're doing our summer reading camps virtually. Make sure students that some of those are more fragile students, and in K2, they don't have internet access. We purchased a whole bunch of hotspots for them so they could be engaged this summer, not ready for face-to-face right now. And so that's what we're doing this summer, a number of different camps and setups and so forth, so that we can meet students where they are and still keep that learning going. We got a lot of lessons learned. We surveyed our 2,000 teachers to see, okay, what worked, what didn't work. We surveyed our parents. We've got some parents in here, what worked, what didn't work, might be tweak and all of that. So we're collating all of that. Of course, the governor has had his Accelerated SC Task Force. State Superintendent has had her Accelerate Ed Task Force, and there was a report out, or a tentative report, interim report, came out, and now some feedback, want some feedback from us on that. Say all that to say is we're looking at what the fall might look like, given DHEC guidance, given CDC guidance. We know in Richland County and state of South Carolina, some of these numbers are ticking up, and what that might mean and what the fall might look like. And some of that interim guidance we've got, okay, here's what you do, or here's what recommended thing to do about social distancing. They're telling us you can only put right now half the number of students on a bus that you did in the fall. So what does that mean for schedules? Social distance in the classrooms and all. See, we only have 4 chairs to a table here. So what does that mean with a classroom of a defined number of square feet with the number of teachers that we have? And if we have to divide those into half, well, we don't have another half number of teachers sitting around. So what does that mean? Athletics, and music, and all of those things. So I say all that to say this thing is complex. We've got more questions right now than we do answers. So we've kind of narrowed things down to possibly 3 scenarios right now that we're looking at, and we're digging into those 3 areas. Face-to-face, and we know what face-to-face looks like. But again, if you can only put half the kids on the bus, if we have to social distance, what about meetings? What about recess? What is that going to look like? What do labs look like? All of those things. So we've got some folks digging into that. If we're face-to-face, what will that look like? And what are all the things that we have to consider? Masks for staff, masks for students. What if they get sick? Are we taking a temperature every day? Temperature check. It's cool today, but if it's hot, 90 plus, and the kid, is it because they're hot or a staff member, or is it because they've been in a car or been on a bus with no AC and all of that? So we've got to map all of that out. So then you go on option B, which is we go all virtual or learning packets and those types of things like we did before. And again, looking at those lessons learned. What do we do for the thousands of students that may or may not have internet access? And what does that look like? And we've purchased hundreds of hotspots, prepared to purchase hundreds more. And there's some other things that we're looking at to bridge that digital divide. And is that learning now going to be, some of the feedback we've gotten from parents, is that synchronous, where it's a Zoom call and the teachers or Microsoft 365 in real time, or is it you log in asynchronously, like some of the virtual things that happen at the college or what have you? And what does that look like? So that's option, or another thing, we've got to flesh all of that out. And some of that is professional learning and all of that, because again, we ended on a Friday, we started a different format on a Monday, and kept that ball rolling as best we could. And then so those are 2 options, and then there's a third that we're kind of grouping in there, what we're calling a hybrid, which is students may go a certain number of days a week and then flipped, or hybrid learning where they may be in class 1, 2, 3 days a week or something like that. Please don't go ahead and say, oh, it's going to be one of those. We're researching and looking at all the pros and cons and what all's impacted in that. And that too would help on hybrid model, and there are all kind of permutations and variations of that and what that entails. So families that have to work and all of that, especially at the early childhood level where that face-to-face and all that interaction is very important. High school students, they've been, again, used to virtual and some other things. But how does that look? Then the other piece is, what do we do with teachers? Because we don't want a teacher to have to do face-to-face and an online class as well. So we've got to look at, if we map out that area, So we might have a set of teachers that are only doing face-to-face. We might have a set of teachers that are only doing virtual. We might have a set of teachers that are doing a hybrid model. So again, they can hone their skill set and all around a particular model. In the meantime, we've got parents and everybody, okay, what's the fall going to look like? And I know everybody's chomping at the bit, but I'm just giving you a little bit of what all we have to take a look at and map out. We only got a couple of weeks to do it because we're about halfway through June. So in short order, we've got to start school in some kind of way, and parents need to know what that's going to look like. Teachers need to know what that's going to look like. Kids need to know what that's going to look like, and all of that. So needless to say, and I've shared with you guys just in conversation, so it's summer, it's not a lot going on. In a normal time, summer is busy. We're gearing up for the next year. That's not saying during the year is not busy. But in the summer, you're doing everything to get ready for a start of school. But this summer, we're doing everything to get ready with a whole lot of unknowns, which means we got to map out a number of plans and being able to pivot. Say, for example, we're face-to-face and a staff member or a student tests positive. And some of the guidance we received, okay, you've got to close that school or you've got to do this, that, and the other for 2 to 5 days. Which means even if we're in a face-to-face model, we've got to pivot for at least a week and be ready for that. So again, a lot of unknowns. We've got teams that are looking at all of these scenarios and trying to make the best decision that we can. This school year, from what we see, nationally and hearing from health officials and all that, this will be an interesting year school-wise. Now, a year from now, we ought to, hopefully things have passed and we're back to the old normal. But there are a whole lot of unknowns that will be in play for this 2021 school year. And we're just trying to map out all of those things and make sure that every aspect is covered. So we appreciate you guys' support and certainly with this and everything we do. But just to hopefully I've kind of painted a picture of there's some things we don't know, but we're planning. I'm calling it's adaptive planning because even and when we get to the point, we're not there yet. We're almost. We did survey parents, but once we get these 3 models kind of fleshed out a little more, we'll be surveying parents again saying, hey, which one of these might you choose or might you be interested in so we can staff up and get things ready for whichever model and have that fluid so we know what we do, what things might look like. So we're just taking a look at all of the healthcare information, school information, what's going on and how we might best continue to serve the needs of our students, keep our community, our families involved and engaged. And we often talk about summer slide. You've heard that term before. Now we're talking about COVID-19 slide in terms of what worked, what we might do better moving forward. But we always live in interesting times, as you all know. But this is certainly interesting times right now. But we've got great staff in our buildings and all, and we're up for the challenge. We thought the flood of 15 was something. But this is something here too, but we'll continue to move forward. Madam President, if you want me to take questions or if there are any questions.
Thank you for speaking to us today and for also being a member of our club. It's nice to engage with you on that level. A few of my clients have backpack drives on an annual basis. What kind of stuff should we be putting in backpacks this year?
I would say in terms of backpack drive, the same things.
Okay.
We started out by doing meals like each day, and that was wearing out our student nutrition staff. So we moved to weekly And they really look like, I don't know how many of you may do the meal service, Hello Fresh, and all of that kind of stuff. So they put things together for them. They kind of vacuum seal, and so when you open the box, it really looks like one of those boxes that we have. But it's just, kids. They're going to want to eat more than just what that breakfast and that lunch is. So they still would need some of those snacks and those types of things that the backpack program should provide.
Okay.
So I would say please continue to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
One of the big impacts, I would think, of the decision you make on which alternative is the impact on parents' ability to work. And I know a lot of people work for us are struggling with, not knowing what to do with their kids, and so it's. I don't know how you measure that into the plan that you pick, but it's an impact.
Absolutely, and part of what we're doing too is we'll engage some of the daycares and so forth, especially with some of the hybrid plans, because, for example, one of the suggestions, to make class sizes smaller would be either an 8-day or early shift or late shift, so to speak, AM, PM, but we triple route our buses, which means we'd have to start about 6:30, 7 o'clock to get a full half day, but get a half day in for half the students and then a half day. So thus, for us, if we were to do that, it would be an A-day, B-day. So talk about parents and getting parents, if they have an elementary and middle, trying to get all those students on an A-day versus B-day. But you're exactly right, and that's another piece that we have to look at, and do we partner with the child care agencies to see what would happen on that opposite day and try to get that covered. Thus, some of the different models that we want to offer to see what might help parents so that they can go to work. And that was part of thinking, y'all hear all this, they can't be working, they need to work and all that, but they have to make sure that their kids are okay. So we certainly understand that and trying to factor that into what we do. Absolutely.
I had a question. Is it up to each superintendent of each school district to decide what they're going to do, or is the state going to say this is what you're going to do?
State is giving us guidelines, but the state hasn't said everybody will be face to face, or everyone will be virtual. They're not there for the fall. Okay. No. Just like, for example, when we closed earlier this spring, it wasn't everybody will do virtual. Some were able to do it, some did package, and we did a combination. So no, it is not a situation where the state is saying you will do. But what we're seeing, certainly here in South Carolina, and we're looking at what's going on in other, certainly other districts around us in the Midlands, because our parents live in one location, work in another, and vice versa. So that's something else. Right? You live here, or you live in Lexington or whatever, but you work here, or vice versa, and that district decides to do something else. So I can tell you, just talking with my superintendent colleagues in the Midlands, we're all kind of looking at these three, some kind of variation on one of the three, and doing that choice. But no, they have not come and said, it's going to be this way. Because, just like before, and even in various communities, the numbers are going up, going down, and all of that. So, thank you. Mayor, and then, yeah.
Oh, thank you. As one of the people here with the ballet, and our mission is outreach, of course, because of the uncertainty, we have a lot of question now about field trips and what will be allowed and what will be safe, and can you address that?
We put a very good question. We're putting together some committees, if you will, looking at the elementary piece because of things, again, early childhood, elementary, middle, and high, because there are some differences in each. But we're so committed to our fine arts programs and partnerships, we have a fine arts committee that's looking at just that. So how do we continue with some of the partnerships, and how do we continue with some of our fine arts, our band, our orchestra, theater. One of our schools did a theater production using Zoom. So they all did the parts and put that together. But we do value those partnerships and those relationships in our programming, so much so that that's being looked at in addition to or in concert with these other academic, not to say they're not academic, but these other considerations is how do we continue our robust fine arts partnerships and programs that we have. Very good point. Very good point. Yes?
Has the state, we've got a wonderful ETV system throughout the state. Has the state considered maybe utilizing that on a regional basis and maybe standardizing some instruction by region?
Yes, and that's being looked at, and there's actually, and to that end, they started doing some of that this spring as we finished out the year. So ETV as well is on board, recording some things and pulling resources that teachers could use and say, okay, here's a resource that students could access and teachers could access as well. And we're having and the statewide administrative conference is next week, a week from today. And some of the sessions and some of the things will be broadcast, and it's going to be a virtual conference. Normally it's down at Myrtle Beach, but it's going to be a virtual conference. And ETV is a big part of at certain times there will be things that people that are attending the conference can log into, can go to ETV and view. So that's kind of a test run, if you will, on how they can be used as a resource this fall as well. So they're in on it.
As a state, how are we going to ensure that these children with special needs do not fall through the cracks? And I ask that because I have a friend who is a foster mom. So she has 2 of her own children and 3 foster children, 2 kindergartners and 2 first graders, and 1 child's a special needs kid. And she literally cried every day feeling inapt to make sure he gets the learning that a school could provide him that
Sure.
he did not.
And we recognize that, and that's why part of what has to happen in the fall is some type of face-to-face. Again, social distance, small group, which sometimes happens in part of that service delivery. So we recognize that some of that is going to happen. And we know with some of our students, whether they're autistic or what have you, if they don't get some of those regular routines and structure, they do take a step backwards. We do recognize that. That's why some of the service delivery will happen. Same with our English language learners, and there's some other specific student populations that we know we're going to have to serve in a more traditional manner. But that will look different. But that being said, we know that there are some services that have to happen. Very good point.
Is the sports going to be able to kick off football and ball, anything?
The high school league has put out some guidance. South Carolina High School League, a 3-phase plan, and they've put out guidelines. And right now it's just conditioning. And they put out some pretty stringent guidelines of what needs to happen. They've left the implementation of that up to the individual districts. Some districts have started that already. We're going to start right at 1st of July, after the July 4th week, well, that first full week. And I can tell you, I was talking to my athletic director before coming in here. There are some schools that have begun some of this training, and just like we heard mentioned today, some of the students and staff may have contracted COVID-19 and have had to put a halt on that. That's why they're trying to make sure that there's certain things in place. They're also recommending a waiver that parents sign, and and so forth. So we're examining that. That came out about a week or so ago, but we're examining that because there are some things that have to happen, both in the locker room and what they do. So we're making sure those things are in place. There, then there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have two children in Richland One School. So a question about the timeline. When do you think you'll have the
Sure.
made on those three models? Because if it's the virtual model, I need time to find a mental institution for myself.
It might be plan number 4. We got the kids taken care of now. I am hoping, and please don't quote me on this, it's going to at least be a couple of weeks. Because again, we've got to drill down to each one. Because as soon as we put it out, okay, well, what about this? And what about, you know? So we want to be able to troubleshoot and look at all those things. And the guidance that's coming out from the state, I just saw an email earlier today. They're still asking for feedback before that gets finalized. So we really need that document to say, because it might mean we have to tweak something or what have you. I am hoping at least a couple of weeks, but sometime in July. Yeah, it'll be before August, but sometime in July. I know parents are chomping at the bit. We know that. I get the calls and emails on that too. But yeah.
In all seriousness, just
sure.
The personal feedback, I do think in-person learning is very important. I mentioned special needs kids. I think for all children,
yeah.
visualization and structure, I just think it's critical that they have in-person in school. So I just
yeah, that will be again one of those. And I've heard from parents that say, yeah, let's bring them back. And I've heard parents say, I'm not sure. Either they're immunocompromised and so forth, and elderly parents, grandparents, and that type of thing, and they're fearful. So we've got to have some options. And again, it's, we're trying to make. Yes, sir.
You mentioned setting up hotspots. Describe a hotspot and how many students could a hotspot have?
Well, it depends. Now, we have Wi-Fi on our buses. We have Wi-Fi on about 100 buses, and we have for a number of at least 2, maybe 3 years. So the kids, when they have their laptops, they could log on if they're on some long rides, and they could do work and so forth. So when we talk about hotspots now, it's pretty much a cell phone, but without the cell service, you still have the internet access, the Wi-Fi. So what we're doing with some of our special needs students, or some, we'll do it with some of reading camp and all, and you can throttle the bandwidth and all of that, time and all. But because again, in some areas, there's still got to be cell signal, still have to be a cell tower. But pretty much when we talk about hotspots, we're talking about a phone without the cell. Yeah. And in terms of bandwidth and how much can you download and all of that, some of that will be, we got to manage that because we can't leave it wide open. We don't want kids and parents streaming Netflix and all that kind of stuff. we want you doing your work. So there's got to be some monitoring and all of that. We do that now with our with laptops as well. Yeah.
Witherspoon, I hated to cut you short because I know there are even more questions, but thank you for all you do for our students and for our parents, for their parents in District 1, and we have a small token of appreciation for you. Okay. And when you have to have it back for an update, that would be great. Thank you. And thank you to our scholars, to their parents, their teachers, their counselors, and all of you. Well, first of all, let me say thanks to Kay Shaw and to the Scholarship Committee and all of you in this club. It's your generosity and your foresight that makes it possible for us to be able to award these worthy students and help them follow their dream. So thank you to all of you.
Would you let the students introduce their parents?
Oh, did we not do that?
No.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me give you the mic to them.
Thank you, thank you. We're going to introduce the parents. Like oversight.
Say your name first, then your
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua Jones. I'm one of the recipients of the scholarship, and I want to say first off, thank you. This has really helped me out, and it will take some burden off my wonderful mother here, my mom, Tracy Jones. She has been a mother for 33 years now. 34? Oh God. Straight out of high school, she started working to support my sister, my oldest sister. She's 34, and she's been working and providing for us her entire life. And I just want to take some of the burden off of her as I pursue higher education. And I just want her to be able to sit back and relax, you know. You know, she already has.
That's not going to happen.
I'm the last of her actual children, so all she has to do is worry about grandchildren and sleeping around sometimes. So I just want her to be able to relax as she goes into retirement soon. Oh my God! I'm a little confused on how old she is sometimes. But
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Andrea Swinson. I'm another recipient of your scholarship, and this is my father, William Swinson, and my mother, Cynthia Swinson. Josh's mom, but they've been parents for at least 18 years, you know, and they got 3 more after me, you know. So this scholarship is really going to be a lot of help because it's lifting a burden off of them, and they don't have to worry about not only helping me, but also the other 3 that come after me, because, you know, all those fees and stuff that comes. But anyways, I'm just really grateful for this opportunity, and I'm so glad that both of you are here for me, and you helped me through all my years. I really love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, scholars. And I do hope that you will come back and see us when you're home from school. We would love to keep up with you. So check in with us. And now, did you say? Oh. And now, President-elect Mason, you want me to? Might as well. Who doesn't know? At least we do. Next week, June 22nd, is our turnover meeting. We exchange the gavel for new leadership, and I'm ready. You will be. Thank you all. Rusty, can we end in song?